Right, so today I figured we'll see how the official easyweb.site template compares in code with some other common CMS systems. And to do that, we'll actually use the ChatGPT AI, or deep learning model really, to generate some code from some other common CMS systems, and then we'll transcribe it to how it would look using the easyweb.site template. So let's just start by asking the ChatGPT, what are some common CMS systems used today? And it tells us WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, Shopify, Magento. All right. So let's try asking it to write some code, some sample code for us. Could you write some sample HTML code of how an article page would look like that contains a header, an introduction, some article. Let's actually add a top image, some article content, and a list of related links. So hopefully we'll get some HTML sample of how it would look in WordPress, writing something like this. Sure, here's an example of an article page containing that would look like in HTML. So did I forget to add how it would look like in WordPress? Okay, that's fine, that's fine. So we'll take this output, that's pure HTML right now. We'll just change our prompt and tell it to add the contents with WordPress. So in that sample, could you take the body of that sample but replace the content with what it would look like if content was fetched from WordPress? Sure, here's an example of the body of an article page. Would look like if the content was fetched from a WordPress site. So we can see it starts typing actual PHP code. So we have a header with an H1, PHP, the title. We have another PHP tag within a paragraph with the excerpt. It prints some image, prints a content, and it adds a list of related links. So this is what it would look like in WordPress. All right. It's not what I'd prefer, but let's see how this exact example would look in the easyweb.site template. So what I'll do is I'll start from the beginning. We'll go to easyweb.site, I can't type, and we'll create a new account and a new site completely while ChatGPT keeps typing away. So create account. I have an email at class@easyweb.se I'll use. Create our account, come into the easyweb, and I'll add my first name, Claes Löfgren. I don't want any messages, and I'm going to go with a robot here. Continue. So once inside easyweb, we get to our account page. We can follow this link. Are you looking to create a new site? Yes, I am. My site. So I'll add a new site. We're going to call it code comparison test. So see, we can immediately see what we'll get as URL here. So we get dev-code-comparison-test. Test actually, because it's a 20 character limit. But we'll go ahead and use this. Template blank is the one available for us. Create site. So right now we're just setting up a site, and later on we'll clone down the easyweb.site template and start coding. So once we have our new site, we're going to need something to code in. So I'm going to head over to the easyweb.site again, and I'm going to go to Docs and Resources and find the GitHub resource where we have added some starting templates. Right now we only have the .NET easyweb.site template there. So let's hit that up. And we have a tutorial here we can read, but I'm going to go through it in this video, so we're not going to look deeper there. I'm going to clone this using HTTP. And personally, I prefer Visual Studio. Of course, you could use Visual Studio Code or whatever code editor you like. Let's clone this down. Added, clone. And unfortunately open on my other screen, but here we go. We have our easyweb template, and we get some starting items. So the first thing we need to do is to add API settings in the app settings.json to connect to our easyweb site. As you can see, these are the ones we're interested in changing. And in order to do that, we need an actual API added to our easyweb site. So I'm going to put this on the left, and we're going to head back to our easyweb site here. In order to set up our API, we want to head to the easyweb API cloud in the top. From the beginning, there's no API access to your site, but you can simply add it by creating an API key here. So we'll get some OAuth information in order to connect. So I'll just use this and paste over in our app settings to get started. So that's our client ID. Here we have our client secret. We're going to have an endpoint, which we'll see here. It's actually XAPI -4354 is what I'm interested in. It's our ID of our actual site. I'm going to add this to the union ID in the data options as well. Hopefully this will get a little easier to add, but as it stands, this is the proper way of adding the API connection. So we add an API connection here. We've added our settings in our template. And just for show, if we want to test the API to see how it works, we can always use the API tester, and we can actually make functional calls immediately. Just see what are the calls, what can we get out. So let's say we want to get out the menu, we're going to try out the menu. We get a response with our menu alternatives. Right now, we get some standard when we created it all. We'll get more routes later as we add content. We'll get actual content in here. As you can see, it's blazing fast. So we have this set up. Let's see if it works. I'm just going to hit F5 or run to run our dev environment. Oh no, my check-in yesterday seemed to lack the namespace, so I'm going to add that. When you clone, that will be uploaded and functional in the GitHub repository, so that's nothing to worry about. So let's kick it up. And from the beginning, we should get some example content, just some boilerplate that connects us. Did we get an error? No. Why are you taking so much time? Let's try to stop this and actually run it again. Oh, we don't have that. Okay, I committed a fix for an issue just a couple of not long ago. Let's remove that fix and let's just go from start again. This is just a template that I've just quickly set up. That fix, what it did was to set up the www root folder, which is required for the resource to run, which since it will get us a starting error if we don't have that code. Fortunately, that's only the first time you run, so second time run, it will still work. I would just happily get rid of that error. Never mind. So, as I said, we get some boilerplate code, we get our site name, we get our menu that we're looking at, and just some footer. So what we want to do is that we want to recreate this output. And to do that, we first have to set up the required fields in easyweb that we want to print. So to set up fields in easyweb, we head over to the easyweb studio. We're going to be working in the start page, just keeping it easy right now. So on the global, we'll have the start view. We get some media field by default. I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. So in our start view, it's right now, it's empty. So the first thing this AI template has is a page title. We're going to use the page label, so let's ignore that for now. We have an excerpt, so an introduction of kinds, and that'll be a short text, I guess. So we're going to add a description, which is represented by text area in the actual code later. I'm going to go with tree view. We're going to call this excerpt, and we're going to give it the key excerpt as well. Now, just for someone who's real new, what this does is that it sets up our template, so it's our start page template. So to actually populate it with contents, I can head over to pages. Let's move this over here. We have our start view here, and as you see, when I enter it, we have the excerpt added here. So I'm gonna label this code comparison label. Start page. That'll be fine. And to the excerpt, I'll say an introduction to the code comparison start page. I don't know. Let's save it. So this is the content. This is the actual template we're adding. So every field we add here, we then can populate with contents here. So what did we need more? So they add an image. I asked them to add an image, so we're also going to add an image, which we'll find down here in the reference types. Image. They're using, I don't know if they really have a key, but we're going to use a key image. Let's just name it top image, just to clarify. Then they have content, which is in a paragraph. So we're also going to add a content section, and then we're going to add the HTML editor to provide some more rich content. So let's call it main content, and let's give it the key. The content, is that a good key? Let's give it a key main content instead. Actually, let's go main content. There we go. And then they had, or I asked it to add a list of related links. So in the reference type, I'll add a link, and I'll rename it link list, or I'll name it related links. And we're going to give it the key links. And right now, whoops, we can only have one. I'll actually show you how this looks in the content view. So we're back in the content view here. They add an image for us, a main content with an HTML editor. And in related links, we can now add one link. But the example actually had a list of links with a for each statement there. So we're going to change the input quantity of this one to allow unlimited amount. That way we can add a list of links and then print it in a loop. So let's save this. Then let's head back to the content view. And again, we find out under pages, code comparison start page. We filled this one in earlier. At top image, we don't have any images. Let's try to see if we can find one. I do have an image of some Santa. So I can just drag an image in and it'll add it. So when selecting, I upload an image, I select the image and I add it. Main content, some HTML content. Some HTML content for the main article section. And links. Let's just add a link to, let's say, the sitemap, and another link to the start page, because why not? And let's save this. So now we've set up some fields, we add some content to it, and now we're going to print it. See if we can see how it looks when we print it like that WordPress template was printed. So in Visual Studio, we had this started up. So let's head back to see our page. If I just update this now, I expect to get all our contents, yes. This is because the easyweb template has a root a root key in the home view, which just says ev template, which means render all content just straight out of the box. So that's why we actually get this contents automatically printed for us. But let's remove that to get an empty view. So what we were asked to do was to recreate this one. So I'm actually I think I'll copy this whole section. Then I'll just start replacing one. So just to print a simple header in the easyweb template, it looks like this. EV in the tag, EV4, and then we need a key to print. And I think the key we used was, or actually we used the label, because the key input should be the same as the keys we used in the studio here. However, as we wanted the page label, which is this label, there's a special key using a $, and then common English language. So the label is the label. So if I use a $, label, I'll get the actual underlying label. We haven't added that to the studio. That's just one of the underlying values available in the easyweb data. To add an excerpt, we added an excerpt with key excerpt here. So I'm going to go ahead and add PEV4 excerpt. Not going to use a big E. Same for the image. And for the image, we have a EV4 keyword, but a special one, since we want our value to be printed in the source attribute. So I'm going to go EV4 source, and we had our image key. Let's place this one to the left. Our image key, image. So I'm going to go with EV source image. And then we had an article text, which we call main content. So for this one, I'm going to go P, EV4, main content. And for the related links, we have to loop this template. So we have our key links, and instead of all this code stuff, we'll just remove it, and we'll just remove the whole anchor. And to type a for each or a loop in, or a list actually, in easyweb we use the ev list keyword. So you want to print a list of links, and what this does is that it'll multiply all contents within it. So we're going to have a list item, then we're going to have an anchor, and we're going to say EV4, and for the attribute href, we're going to add just a $. And what the $sign does is that as we start printing every link in here, we will scope our contents to what is actually being listed. So for every item, this will duplicate. And as we are printing the item within links, we use the key simple $, which is shorthand for $this, which means that this item in the links list. So I can leave it as $this. That's probably clearer. And inside it, we will once again use the key label. Actually, let's add an EV4 label. EV4 will always print the value that it finds within the tag. So EV4 label here will print the label within these tags. Let's format it. That's it. That should be done. So let's see if it actually works. Let's head back to our page. Let's reload. And let's check the source. So we have a header. We have the H1 for our label. We have the image. And note here that the image was actually added with the source and an alternate text. So it automatically fetched and added the alt text from our image description in easyweb. So these keywords do a little bit more than just adding the values. They actually make sure that the proper HTML contents is added that is expected or common or SEO friendly. So we had our next section. You see, that'll be this one, the main content, which printed a little funny. As you can see, the section added empty piece, our text, and an empty paragraph tag couple. This is because I actually made a mistake here. Since our main content in easyweb, let's go check that out. Our main content in easyweb will have added piece for us. See? So you see, the HTML editor actually gives us paragraph wrapper. So if we add our contents to a paragraph, that'll add double piece, and the Chrome DevTools will actually try to format that to proper HTML, which creates some empty piece or empty paragraph tags. So what we'll do is that we have some options here. Obviously, we just use a div, reload, and we should find that we now get an empty div tag, and we get the P, our actual contents with the paragraph within it, printed within. But if we don't want any wrapper, because you don't always want it, we can also just go with the EV template. Use a 4-key main contents, and this will just print the contents as it is without having to have any wrapper. So this is how you can print default content just as it exists. If that would have worked, but it didn't, because I probably wrote main content as key, right? Key main content, that's correct. So let's remove an S here. Let's reload, and we get our value again. So now, you shouldn't actually have given, okay, the template actually automatically wraps it with a div. That's editable, let's ignore it for now. And the last piece is our related links list, which was created with an H2 related links, a UL, and an LIL list item, and an anchor tag within it, sitemap, and then the start page. So that's how simply you can mark up the same value in data fetch as in WordPress. Let's see, let's make a short comparison of it as it stands. If I can drag this out to the right side. So this in WordPress looks like this when using this website template. As you see, I don't need any coding knowledge. I don't need to know even Razor or anything like that. It's just native HTML friendly keywords that we use together with the keys we created in easyweb. So let's compare it with some other default templates. So let's ask the AI, could you show us how the same example would look using Joomla, for example? So hopefully the AI will give us the exact same markup, but with Joomla code. Oh, is this actually Joomla code, or is the AI just giving us a bad example? I don't know if it expects us to be PHP, but once again, well, if this is a good example, and I'm not sure it actually is, I think these website templates are more friendly code. Let's actually, I don't think that's, let's do the same using Drupal. I don't know if it's hooked up on PHP. Could you show us a generic example? It doesn't have to be PHP. Okay, it just gave us some generic examples, but you can see this is also common output. So these are some samples of how it will look in other systems, and this is how it looks in when using the easyweb.site template. So I really think this is an improvement of generally how you print data, in my opinion. I thought it was a fun example, playing around with the ChatGPT as well.